You gotta give me one thing. I'm a scary judge of talent.
Adolphus Washington back-to-back plays.
The Detroit Pistons select Luke Kennard from Duke University.
Welcome everybody to the Triple Double Podcast. We got another episode for you here today, and we've got a special guest, Darnell Williams, aka Flight. Coach, what's up?
What's going on, Corey, man?
Not much, man. I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule, and this is a special episode for me. It's something I've been wanting to do since we started the podcast. Thought about a couple different characters to run it with, but I thought you'd be the best one. And, you know, you're a New York City guy, so today we're going to be talking about New York, New Jersey, East Coast basketball, and some of the differences between what we're accustomed to down here in Ohio versus up there your way.
Oh, shit, whenever you're ready, man. You know, it's not much, but it's a lot of difference, though.
Right. Well, everybody in Cincinnati knows who you are. You know, when I tweeted out yesterday that I was going to have you on the podcast, I got a lot of texts, a couple Twitter replies. But let me just run through your accolades real quick. Darnell Williams, you know, people in Cincinnati call him Flight. Accomplished in the basketball world, both in Ohio and in New York City. As a player, high school coach, AAU coach, and college coach. Spent time as the head coach of Division II Kentucky State. And as a player, Flight scored over 1,500 points at Xavier from 95 to 2000. And what was it, Flight, just a couple months ago you got into Xavier's Hall of Fame, I saw.
Yes, I was in December. I was in Cincinnati for that weekend. Very good honor right there.
Yeah, a lot of guys and a lot of Xavier guys that have come from New York City area. And one of the actual reasons that I got to thinking about it's time to do this podcast was talking to one of your guys, used to be the head coach at Princeton, used to be involved at Woodward High School, which is Jamal Walker. But just, you know, take us through, you know, for those who maybe aren't familiar, you know, take us through your playing days and how you got from New York and, you know, ended up at Xavier and what you did there.
Leaving New York. I played AAU basketball for Riverside at Church, so I used to get to travel, but mainly, most of the people know me in New York City from playing in all the parks, tournaments, and everywhere all over the city. And just rode that way from Nazareth High School with Coach Prosser coming to recruit me. First seeing that ABCD camp playing well, and then kept following me, and then just ended up at Xavier. And just put on the hard hat every day. A lot of kids nowadays don't understand that it takes hard work to get anything that you want. They have to get in the gym. A lot of them just want the instant success. And we was never granted that instant success just because I didn't start playing basketball until I was 14.
I mean, when you came out of New York, from the stories you told me, it's very different than now. And now when you look at like the circuit scene, you look at the circuit scene in New York, and Nike's got a lot of programs, Under Armour's got a lot of programs. But back when you played, you know, it seems like the kids from the Bronx, the kids from Harlem, played for the Gauchos. The kids from where you're from played for Riverside. And, you know, those were really the two platforms to kind of come out. And then the other one was probably, I would assume, something like a five-star camp.
Yeah, well, when it was different, when we was coming out, it was maybe 5 AAU teams that really traveled. You had Brooklyn, USA. You had the Gauchos, Riverside, the Church, the New York Madison Square Broncos, and you had the Long Island Panthers with Gary Charles. And that was really it.
And, I mean, you guys remember when we went to Orlando, when we were the Prophets and you were coaching the 17 under team and we got invited to the Super Bowl, we got to play the Gauchos, and then right after that we got to play the Long Island Lightning.
The Gauchos.
Yeah, and for you, I just remember that was such a big deal to get to play those two teams, and we ended up losing to the Gauchos by like 4 points and everything. But I remember that was one of the most fun AAU basketball games I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, that was a real good time, especially down there with the New York guys, because you know what they're doing. Hey, everything to the basket. And I knew most of those guys, especially Richie Parker. I was playing against Richie. We played together on the Riverside of Church, so it was a good deal.
Right. Well, I mean, with the kids, your day coming out in the '90s and everything, New York was very different, and now New York is kind of become more touristy again. It's become much more cleaned up, but it was considered much more of a hardcore city back then. And just, I mean, for the '90s, what was the mentality of the basketball players coming out of that city?
New York basketball back then in the '90s was all about grittiness and toughness. Everything was to the basket. Most people didn't shoot jump shot. Everything was to the basket. Everything was tough. You're going to get hit. And it was just no fear. You play in parks that's you can play in a park in a game and there's 2,000-3,000 people. So shoot, if you were scared of New York, it didn't even make no sense for you to even try to come out to play.
And that's what it is where, nowadays, for a variety of reasons, you don't see kids play in the park, and maybe it's more prevalent in New York than it is in Cincinnati or Columbus or Cleveland. But, the park scene was probably bigger than the AAU scene, or maybe, like you said, just as big as the high school scene.
Yeah, the park scene back in the 90s was bigger than the AAU scene, and might be bigger than the high school scene. Everybody wanted to win the city and state, but in the summertime, with certain tournaments, you just had to play in and you had to win it. It was all for bragging rights. Figure if you could do your thing in the city in the '90s, you can go anywhere.
Right, and then talking to Jamal Walker, who's another New York guy, Bronx guy, and he got to Xavier, and he was telling me that the thing from back then. I know he's a couple years older than you, but the thing back then was the 5-star camp, and that he told me he had no one recruiting him, no one knew his name. Everybody knew who he was at the park, but no one in terms of colleges knew his name. And he goes to 5-star camp the first time, and ends up at Xavier and has all these different opportunities like UMass and these other big schools. And AAU was one thing, but the camp setting, especially East Coast, still is a big deal when you look at Hoop Group and some of the other things that are out there.
Yeah, well, back in that time, 5-star ran everything. Everybody used to go to 5-star. But, growing up in New York, you always seen those guys, Mr. Kachowski, Howard Garfunkel. It was always in New York. Shoot, they used to come to some of the outdoor tournament games to tell kids they need to come to 5-star.
With those kids, some of those great kids that have come out of the city, and when we were coaching with the Prophets, I was at UC and Lance Stevenson was there, so we certainly had a lot of talks. And being a Brooklyn guy, I know Lance's people and Sebastian Telfair's people. And the thing about New York, just for yourself being a great player, and then for some of those other guys in today's social media age where they're even more recognizable. I mean, the thing to me that sticks out about New York that's so interesting is there's a lot of opportunity there. There's a lot of exposure. There's a lot of stardom and good things that come with that. But the amount of distractions and just opportunities to go off track are there more so than any other place in the country.
Yes, it's more so than any other place in the country, but it's really still just similar to anywhere else. It's just way more people, and it's way more different avenues of different things in New York. So that's the worst part. And you can get caught up because you got handlers, everybody running. Now with all these AAU guys that you got that's really faking the business. You got all these kids with all these gangs now and all these drugs, and you have a bunch of different things going on. So, nowadays it's much more easier to get caught out there in New York than it is anything right now.
It's interesting to see with kids like I know the Cole Anthony kid. I know he transferred to a prep school, but with who his father is, he's got all that, and there's so much. You always hear, well, this kid's the next king in New York, this and that, and with so many people in that city and so many pros, I always just think it's got to be a very difficult place to be a great high school player, because with New York, with the entertainment industry there, it's like whatever you do, it still is never enough.
Yeah, it's never enough. But to be a great high school player in New York City, man, you just have to show and prove every night. One thing about the media in New York City, they didn't care if you was in high school, college, or the pros. They're going to ride you if they say you're good. So if you don't show up, nobody going to know. But the difference nowadays is the social media aspect. When I was growing up in New York, the only way people knew about you, what you were doing, is everybody had to read the newspaper every day. Now everything is on social media. So most kids, you can show 2-3 highlights and everybody think they good. But, most kids nowadays, You got some kids that's real good, and you got the drop off is big because it's major because the fundamentals is leaving the game.
Right, and I think there's also a thought, outside of the city, going into the Midwest, or especially if you go to a place like Chicago or Detroit, where there's a prevalence of a lot of other good players. There's definitely a thought that there's some arrogance from the East Coast kids. They think they're better than everybody. They don't respect anybody else, and because of that, I think kids often come to school with a mark on their back, being that they're a great player from New York City.
Yeah, pretty much. You get a mark on your back because some kids do got an arrogance. Some don't stop talking. But my era was different. I came out of high. Stephon Marbury was the best player in the class, and Shamgar was the number 2 player in New York State. So you just go with those 2 names and ride with it. They was on the map, and everybody knew those guys was. But every night they went out there and put it in their work. So sometimes you just have to gain your respect either way.
Right. I mean, on that level, Stephon Marbury could probably talk whatever he wanted to talk.
He just was.
Just
at that time,
everybody, I would assume.
And you got to remember that class in 1995. If we go national, let's see, it was Kevin Garnett, Vince Carter, Antoine Jameson, Chauncey Billups, Paul Pierce, Robert Tractor Trailer, may he rest in peace. Let's see, and a bunch of other guys. We had that class of 95. If you didn't show up to play AAU, you're going to lose by 40.
Well, right, that's when there wasn't 1,000 AAU teams, and every city had the best players.
Teams was loaded, and you got to remember the borders was open. So you had Vince Carter playing with the New Jersey Road Runners. You had Kevin Garnett playing for whoever he wanted to. He played with Team Michigan when they were stacked one year.
You told me one year you had you, Ron Artest, Lamar Odom, Elton Brand, or something crazy like that?
I had all the young kids. They all played up. They was young. I didn't Charlie Weber. We had him. Nobody was young.
Mm-hmm. And that's the other thing I wanted to talk about with the New York guys is, going back to like Lane Stevenson. When these guys come out, it's funny with New York and the East Coast in general. It's the same with Jersey, same with Philly, is that for being such large cities, it's still a small basketball community and everybody knows each other. And then the other funny thing is, everybody knows the dirt on each other. And, that certainly ties everybody together.
Yeah, it's just basketball. The basketball community in the world is small. The amount of people you meet when you playing and y'all just stay friends and you just know these guys from all over and you just bump into them. It's just a funny thing, but especially in New York. Because if you good, you're going to play in the main tournaments. Everybody, you're going to run into everybody. There's no running from it. It could be 100 million tournaments going on, but it's that major 5 that you got to play in. Growing up, my years, it was different. Nowadays, it's Dykeman's, the Gersh Parks. You got to play and know for everybody to know you.
And it seems like it's changed. I mean, just from the stories you hear, you don't hear about guys like Rafer Alston or Sebastian Telfair that kind of made their name in the park. You hear about now. It's so different with social media. It's so different with shoe circuits. And I mean, I think in New York, it's probably changed more than anything because you're taking the Otis off of playing outside and you're taking it more towards playing against guys from all over the country in camps and different events. So, I mean, do you think that's changed New York basketball? Is it a good or a bad change?
It's been a good and a bad change, but really more of a bad. Because nowadays the kids not playing in the park, they're not going to learn how to really play the game. Everybody's about a trainer this, a trainer that, and half of these trainers don't know what they're doing. I played pro ball for 7 years, and half of the moves that they teach these kids, you would never use in a game. So with the AAU circuit, you're taking these kids, they're taking it away from the element. But now you still got some tournaments that the kids come back and play in. But it's not like that no more because everything is trainer. I want to go to this school. I want to go to prep school. Every kid want to leave and go to prep school. So it's not even the same no more.
Well, it definitely seems like a lot of the top kids from the area end up leaving, whether it's to go to New Jersey Catholic school or an academy, or to go to one of the New England prep schools. And I mean, that's probably gone on forever. But I mean, is that something that's just kind of assumed the kids are going to do that?
You know, it's been on forever. But when I was in school in the '90s, most of us, if we had to go to prep school, ended up going for our post grad. We never went when we was in regular school because you wanted to win the city and the state title back then. But back then, that's when you had teams coming to New York and you were going places to play in tournaments, and you were still playing national teams.
Right, right. I mean, with all that, I think you also got people saying now. I've seen articles, and they talk about lack of gym space in the city. They talk about lack of playground ball, and there's some sentiment out there that maybe it's not what it used to be, and people start talking about Texas, or sometimes you hear Florida, you hear DC as maybe bigger hotbeds than New York. But I mean, I think the players are still there. It's just a different type of thing.
Yeah, it's just a different type of thing. Everybody got their running. New York is coming back. A lot of people don't. There's a lot of talented kids up here. I've been going to a lot of high school games. But when people do feel like a gym space here, because you got schools closing, you got schools being condensed, so gym time is hard to get. We had a place in Brooklyn called Hoopland, and you go play all the time. That's closed down now. So but the economy, things happen. And a lot of kids, they just not going outside. They take the myth of, if I play outside, my leg's gonna break down. I'm not gonna be able to play. So they don't do that. But you got to be creative. That's what makes some New York City kids different than others.
Right, right. I mean, and you got the ones that want to embrace that mentality, and then those are the ones that you guys as New York basketball people embrace back. I mean, I know that the Gauchos gym is still there, and just for Midwest guys, I know the 1 year Trey Potter and Reggie Revels and Glenn Guillermo when they took their team up there to Cincinnati Knights, and Samaje got the MVP up there and they won the tournament. I just remember them coming back and saying, well, everybody in New York said, that this guard Samaje is better than all the New York guards, and that kind of being the place where Samaje really got his name on the map heading into July recruiting. And from other places, regardless of where New York stands, there's still the kind of theory back here that if you could show your face in New York and show that you're one of the best players, then you can make it anywhere. And I think that's why Nike and Adidas and Under Armour have had events up there over the last couple of years.
And that's what it is, just because of the media following and the way the fans going to ride you. And if you play well, we're going to let you know. Samaje played well. Let me see. A lot of people came. Mark Lyons, he done showed out a whole lot in the last couple of summers. Terrell Holloway, but he's from here. But, you got guys that came from everywhere. And I remember when Samaje went up there and played, and everybody was like, y'all got a kid in Cincinnati. I told y'all he could play. And a lot of guys seen when Aaron Thomas was at Brewster. And they was like, where did they get him from?
Right. Well, Aaron had that attitude where you could have sworn he was from up your way.
Aaron is a basketball junkie. That's what he is.
Right. Well, before, so let's go over towards your playing days then. I mean, after you got done playing, you coached at Kentucky State, you coached at Cincinnati Withrow, had some really good players there, coached with the Queen City Profits and the D1 Greyhounds. But I want to talk about your playing career, and I think you've got one of the most interesting and fascinating stories about playing 3 years at Xavier, having so much success, deciding to come back for your senior year, and then having to deal with an injury. And I think that's really set the tone for you to kind of become a teacher of the game.
Yeah, that's what set the tone. And God has a plan for everybody, and I guess the plan for me was to teach the game and the kids and help kids out. Right now I'm a dean of students, and I love going to work every day, keeping these kids on the right path.
And you hurt your knee overseas, didn't you?
Yeah, I was playing on a travel team in Italy. Craziest thing was, I'll tell you, Scooty Penn that went to Ohio State was the point guard. I started at the 2. Ron Artest was the small forward, Marcus Fizer was the power forward, and Jason Collier was our 5-man. That was my team. And in 3 games before I got hurt, I led the team to score average 29.5.
And I know you always told me that, you know, Ron being a Queens guy, you being a Brooklyn guy, and you guys came up together, and you told me that, you know, you tried to dunk the basketball and ended up getting fouled hard and came down with an injury, and you said Ron Artest wasn't too shy about letting the other guy know about it.
No, he wasn't too shy. Ron put his hands on him right there. Talking about, you just didn't hurt my man D. You know, that's still my guy. Ron is just he built from a different cloth. He one of the guys you want on your team. Ron, you always need a Ron Artest. You always need a Teray Braggs. You always need one of them.
Right. Well, I think Lance is trying to catch Ron as the craziest player from New York. I think he's on his way.
He on his way. You know, he ain't get suspended for almost a whole year, so he ain't that crazy.
But no, man, what I wanted to tell you, you know, on this platform, I've told you before, but I think one of the things I admire about you in terms of coaching is that, you know, you did those 3 years, could have gone to the NBA, decided to come back, took the injury, sat a year, came back, still had a good senior season, even though, you know, you probably weren't near 100%, had some pro career, but, you know, maybe that injury slowed you down from what you could have been, but instead of being bitter about it, instead of crying about it, you know, you've always been somebody to go and work in the community, help the kids, you know, especially at Withrow. A lot of kids you deal with probably like the kids you deal with in, you know, the inner city of Brooklyn. And, you know, you've been definitely a great source for those kids. And, you know, kids like Aaron Thomas, kids like Devin Williams that have gone on from Cincinnati Withrow to play professional basketball. I mean, those kids are certainly not afraid to tell everybody that you made a big impact for them.
You know, it's just, you know, people put in places and meeting some of those kids, you know, they need a little bit of direction, a little bit to just tell them how to play. And we're just happy to be part to be helpful, you know. That's all you want to do is be helpful, to say that you gave back. Because somebody had to give back to me in order for me to be where I'm at today.
Right. I mean, when you're with those kids, you know, you look at somebody like Devin, and, you know, people told him he was a little too small, and, you know, Aaron, they told him, well, you know, you started off poorly academically, you're never going to make it in college basketball. And, I mean, you obviously went through that type of stuff yourself, you know, coming from New York, going to Xavier. So you certainly, you know, those kids were very, they could really relate to what you had to say.
Yeah, you know, they could relate because I told them, shoot, I had to struggle to get my test scores. Everybody was saying, I wasn't a 90 average, getting no 1,000 on the SAT. I had to take it a couple times and finally took the ACT and passed. So I just tried to tell them how it was really going to be out there. You're going to make it, you got to put the extra work in. You got to do everything. You got to line it up.
Right. And you had a lot of other kids that maybe didn't play on that level, but, you know, still succeeded. And, you know, I'll tell you what, I didn't have this plan, but we should talk about one other thing here before I let you go. The most famous Withrow Tiger that you coached, man. Everybody talks about Devin. Everybody talks about AT and, you know, Tim Coleman that played at Utah and some other guys. But we've never on this podcast talked about, man, what was it like to coach Big Roselle Nix?
Big Ro.
Just tell everybody listening who Big Ro was.
Big Ro was one of the biggest human beings I know in my life. But he's the nice, most gentleman kid ever. It was a pleasure coaching Big Ro. You know, one of the most respectful kids. One of the kids that you could just tell him to do one thing, he doesn't do it and not complain.
You talk about a kid, man.
Nobody.
He came. Nobody ever thought he could play. You know, didn't really play even a whole lot until his senior year at Withrow, and did a year of prep. He did 2 years of JUCO, and then he ended up at Pittsburgh. And, you know, now he's out here playing for a check.
He is the epitome of perseverance. He's the epitome of hard work and determination. And ain't nobody more than he's over in Portugal playing professionally than me.
Good deal. Well, that's certainly the idea, man. You touched a lot of lives, Kentucky State, doing what you're doing in New York now, and we hope to have you back down this way sometime. We hope to hear about you doing some big things up in New York, man, and we certainly appreciate having you on the podcast.
All right, Corey. You have a good night, my man.
All right, Darnell. I'll talk to you, brother.
All right.
All right, guys. That was Darnell Flight Williams, former Xavier legend and former coach at the high school, AAU, and Division II college level. And I want to thank him for coming on the podcast. For Jason Morrow, I'm Corey Albertson. That was the Triple Double Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by PlayEasy.com. For players, coaches, or casual athletes looking to book a sports facility, as well as owners and managers of sports facilities, PlayEasy.com is the new one-stop site for streamlined services. If you're looking for a place to practice, play, host your tournament, camp, or other, simply go to PlayEasy.com and create a booking request for your area. Your request will go out to surrounding facilities who will respond with their best offer. Once you receive the offer that best fits your needs, book the facility and you're ready to play. For facility owners and managers, PlayEasy puts the power in your hands to maximize the usage and visibility of your facility. Register your facility for free today at PlayEasy.com. PlayEasy.com is the booking site built by athletes, coaches, and facility managers, and is proud to help bring you the Triple Double Podcast. This podcast is also brought to you by Anago Cleaning Systems. Are you tired of struggling in a dead-end job? If so, Anago Cleaning Systems has what you're looking for, an opportunity to go into business for yourself, but not by yourself. With franchising opportunities available for as little as a $2,500 down payment, purchasing an Anago franchise has never been easier. Once you own your Anago franchise, you're licensed to clean commercial facilities all around the greater Cincinnati, Dayton, or Columbus areas with the support of Anago's sales, quality control, operational, and accounting staff. Call 513-332-0033 today for your opportunity to be your own boss and grow your own commercial cleaning company under the guidance of Anago's proven and successful system. Again, call 513-332-0033 to learn more. With Anago, your future starts today.